The magic of this clock is that it's something that if collectively we can move the hands back, we can rewind the clock, we can reset the clock, and we have set it forwards and backwards over time since it was first created in 1947. I'm Rachel Bronson. I'm the president and CEO of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. One of the things that's so powerful about the clock is its elegance and its simplicity. Everyone can understand 2 minutes to midnight, and everybody can talk about it. The issues that we are measuring are so complicated, and they're so technical, and they're so big that often they're daunting. It is hard to talk about nuclear issues and feel that you can have some agency in making them better. Similar for climate change, similar for artificial intelligence, similar for genetic editing. These are big issues that most people don't feel like they know they're important, but they don't know how to talk about it, let alone what to do about it. So what the clock does is it lets people talk about it. So today, the hands of the Doomsday Clock are set by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists Science and Security Board. We come together twice a year, and in November we meet in Chicago, and that's when we begin the in-person conversations to set the Doomsday Clock. We lay out the issues that we want to focus on, and we ask ourselves two very important questions. Are we safer or at greater risk this year than we were last year? And are we safer or at greater risk today compared to the history for which we've been setting the clock? And that really organizes our conversations. And then we start looking through the things that have changed and stayed the same, what's gotten better, what's gotten worse. And then after we get through all that discussion, what time best conveys where we think we are in terms of existential risk. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but that conversation in November is the first in-person conversation where we're really looking at this in an organized way. And then we spend between November and the release of the time in January working on the statement to defend the position and keeping our eye on things that are happening to make sure we're still comfortable with that time. So why did we keep it it is still 2 minutes to midnight? There's a lot in the report. If you read the report, you'll see to suggest that things are really very dangerous, and we're very serious about how dangerous it is. We'd anticipated a lot of the things that we're seeing now, and we had factored a lot of those issues into the clock movements of the past, but we didn't feel that there was something that was qualitatively and quantitatively worse than we had anticipated. The one place that was not true was around information warfare and cyber, where we do in the report say that we've seen a quantitative change that is appearing qualitative. And we were flagging that for the first time ever to say, this is a risk to civilization as we know it. You and I and all of us trust the fact that there's some sense of what is true and not, and that we're working towards continually finding the truth. And suddenly, the things we've trusted are no longer trustworthy. And so what is that going to mean for our future? And are we going to be able to recreate these imprimaturs that we can trust? And who's going to do that? And what does that look like moving forward? So we put those two together, the new abnormal, and kept the time at 2 minutes to midnight, because 2 minutes to midnight is extremely dangerous. It's the most dangerous it's ever been. The only time it's been as close to midnight has been 1953, after the United States and the Soviets tested their hydrogen bombs. So we believe, and we were just in the beginning of the arms race. So we truly believe we're in a very similar environment now. And that we're going to stay here for some time. And where we are now is on the precipice of what we believe is a new arms race and a return to, if it's not the Cold War, it's going to look very different, but a very, very dangerous time. We now have more than 2 nuclear states. It seems that there's lessons being learned that it's safer to have nuclear weapons than not to have them. These are good investments. We see investments in weaponry that suggest that they might be used and used soon because they have a lower yield, and so therefore they're somehow more usable, which we think is devastatingly dangerous. We're in a climate environment where these wildfires are just destroying whole swaths of territory, and people are going hungry because food isn't being grown where it used to. So it's a very different environment where science should really be our friend in helping to solve them, but we don't seem to have the will or the international architecture to address today's challenges. So whether you're looking at on the nuclear space, the climate space, or in terms of disruptive technology, we just saw the first use of CRISPR on these twin babies in China without any sort of agreed upon international regulation or agreed upon how are we going to recode the human genome. And so the science is just running at so fast ahead of our political instruments and apparatus. And so that's when the Bulletin was formed, in that kind of environment to say, if we created this, we can help bound it, but we really have to get on board and pick your issue, whether it's AI, artificial intelligence, CRISPR, cyber, nuclear proliferation, or terrorism, or climate, different oceans, or clouds, or whatever your piece of it is, and whether it's as a scientist or a journalist or a photographer or as an artist, or pick your issue and pick your medium. But like, we all have to figure out how to try to engage the public, who's ultimately it's going to be in our hands to help keep us safe.